Let's make some personalized s'more sticks. Okay, so moving over to the computer portion, I'm going to be using Silhouette Studio Business Edition. They do have a basic version which is free. So I'm just going to go over here on the left to the text, and I'm going to type out the names that we're going to do. And I am going to type them out separately, so one name at a time, and then I'll re-click on the text box before bringing it back over to the canvas. And I'll show you why in a second. So I'll show you here. I could just hit enter and type the next name. It'll show you why I don't do that. I want to modify each name separately because I want to do some different fonts, and if I had typed them separately, I can click on this and I can modify just this name. If I just hit enter, when I select it, it's going to select all of the names in that box, so I have to modify them together. You can ungroup them and work that way, but I just find it easier to do them separately. So okay, so we have our 6 names here. I am going to choose a different font for each one. So the clear one, I'm going to select it. I'm going to go over here to our text style, and I want to select chocolate candy cups. You can see our font is also up here on the top. For the dad, I would like to use DTC Miss Honey. I love this font. I think it's a very fun, playful font. Some of the letters are really unique, like the B, so make sure that you like all the letters before you decide to go with this font. For the mom one, I'm going to use this font here, and you can see once I click on it, it changes on the top here. It's ZNIKO, etc., etc. For the Jack, I have chosen Hitman. Brandon is Arial Narrow, and Jennifer, I'm just using Arial. Okay, so they each now have their own style of font. I'm going to resize them once I go over to Cricut, but some of them I need to make a little bit thicker in order to be able to cut them out. So for the Claire one, I'm going to thicken it up a little bit, and in order to do that, I'm going to select it. I'm going to double click, and I'm going to select offset. So for this one, I'm going to choose an offset of 0.015. And you can see, just moving our original font over, the offset one is just thickened up just a little bit. So I'm going to stick with that. I can delete the original one. The dad one I think is fine. The mom one, this is a single line font, so I definitely need to thicken it. So double click, offset. This one I need to make thicker because of how thin it is, so I'm going to change it to 0.03 offset. So I'm going to hit apply, click, and then you can see, I can move the original font out. You can see now this is much thicker, so I can get rid of the original mom. And the Jack, I also need to thicken up a little bit, so I'm going to highlight it, double click, and I'm going to hit offset. And for this one, I'm going to go down to 0.02 offset, and I'm going to hit apply. I'll move the original out. You can see it's a little bit thicker, and I'll get rid of the original. So I'm happy with the thickness of these. So we can save these as an SVG. The file, save as, save to hard drive. And I'm going to change this to an SVG, so just call it something that you want on your computer. Make sure you do save it as an SVG, and then you'll click OK. Now you'll be able to open up Cricut Design Space. I'm going to hit New Project. I am going to go to Upload, Upload Image, hit Browse. I'm going to select my file, hit Upload, I'll be able to select it in recent uploads here and then click add to canvas on the bottom right. So you can see it's now brought in my design. I'm just going to bring this a little bit bigger so we can see what we're working with here. Now they all are connected, so I'm going to double click here and click ungroup. Now that's going to ungroup all of our items from each other, but I want to make sure that each name is grouped. I can see the dad is, this one is not. So it looks like the ones that I thickened are not grouped together, so that's okay. We'll just group those, so these ones should be okay. Okay, so now I can, move each name around independently. For the Claire one, I want to make it 0.3 inches in height, but Cricut design space works in centimeters. So just make sure that your lock symbol is locked here. That means that when you change one proportion, the other one will change in proportion to that. If the lock symbol is not closed, then your fonts are going to get all wonky once you start changing the size. So for the Claire one, for the height, I want it to be 0.762 centimeters. Just hit enter. For the dad one, I want it to be 0.762, enter. For the mom, I want it to be 0.762, enter. For the Jack, I also want it to be 0.762 centimeters. Now the Brandon and Jennifer fonts are much larger than the other ones, so I'm actually going to make their height a little bit smaller. I'm going to make them 0.2 inches, so it works out to be 0.508 centimeters. And same thing with the Jennifer, I'm going to make it 0.508. Okay, so now everything is sized. These are pretty small. I might make these 2.5. I'm going to make them. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to change the Brandon and Jennifer to 0.635. So that way they're 0.25 inches. I think this looks a little bit more proportionate to the other ones. I think that'll be a good size. Okay, so now I just need to make sure that each name is welded together so that it cuts together, because as you can see here, all of these letters are going to cut individually, and I do not want that. So I just need to weld each name so that way each name will cut out together. Will make applying it evenly a lot easier. So you can see now each name is going to print out together. If you want to use up small pieces of your scraps, you could just change the color of each one, and then that will allow you to print them on separate mats. You can print one piece at a time. But I have some fairly bigger pieces, so I think I can fit them all on one, except I am going to change 2 of them to a different color because I want to show you what it looks like with different types of vinyl. So for these 2 purple ones, I'm going to print those on Oracle 651, and for the other ones I'm going to print with Sizer HTV. I do know that the Sizer HTV works better. Okay, so I am going to hit make it. Okay, I will select my mat here, hit continue. So the first mat they're giving us is the HTV. Because we are printing with HTV, we do need to remember to hit mirror. It's going to put all of our names backwards, so that way they're going to print backwards, but then when we transfer them, they'll be the correct way. Okay, so I'll just show you. I keep all my scraps here in a binder, and each color and style is in its own protective sleeve. Great way to organize your vinyl without taking up too much space. So for this one, I'm looking for the black HTV. So I'm gonna rearrange. That so that it can fit with my mat here. As you can see, I rearranged my mat to fit this nice small piece that I have. Okay, so with the HTV vinyl, you need to make sure that the shiny side that looks like it has plastic on it goes against the mat, and the matte side goes facing you. So I'm going to stick this on my sheet. And you can see how when I rearranged my names to fit this piece, I'm just gonna get my brayer tool and just adhere it down. Okay, I'll open up my machine, slide my mat in, feed it in, just move it out from the wall a little bit. Gonna continue. And we'll just hit make it. Okay, so it's done cutting, so we're gonna feed our mat back out. Excellent. Just gonna push this back out of the way. Okay, so you can see it printed all of our names there on the mat. So I'm just gonna turn my mat over and peel it away from my vinyl here. Now I like to cut, well, I can cut off this vinyl because I can probably get another name out of there or use it for a different project, but no point in wasting that. I can keep that for another project. But I like to cut my names out and weed them separately. I think that's just a personal preference. Okay, so that's one. It's nice to do this in the light to ensure you aren't cutting the actual name. Okay, so I have my 4 names here. Try to do this in the camera. I'm just gonna weed these out. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay that there. Okay, so the Oracle one we do not need to mirror because it's regular HTV. So we just need a piece that's gonna go to about 5 and 1.5. So I just need a really small piece. So I'll just get the smallest piece that I have. I use this awkwardly shaped one. About 5 and 1.5. So that goes 5. Does that go 1.5? Yes, it does. I think that'll work actually. So I'm going to cut this piece like so. My piece does have a small rip on it, but I'm gonna hope that isn't affected. I'm gonna put that out just a smidge, hoping that that works. Just bury that on there. This one you put the vinyl part facing up, and this part faces the mat. So I'm just gonna push this down, load our vinyl in. I will feed it in. I need to move this away from the wall. And I can just hit make it. And I can just hit make it. Okay, it's finished, so we'll feed our meat back out. Yes, it worked, so I was able to escape the rip. I'm gonna peel this off my mat. Okay, and I'm just gonna cut this so I can weed it. Okay, so just got a small piece of transfer tape, and I'm only going to put transfer on one of these. I'm just going to lay that on top of the clear because I'm actually going to reuse the piece of transfer tape for the other one. So I'm just going to take my squeegee and just make sure that the clear is nice and adhered. Okay, so I've just squeegeed both sides of my clear. Make sure it's nice and attached. I have taken the Smore stick that we're going to use for this name, and I'm going to line up a ruler under it. So just because the size of my ruler, and to get this in the camera, I have lined up my ruler underneath the wooden stick. So about 6 to 10, so it's about 4 inches. So I know that the exact middle of the stick is 8 inches. So I'm going to take my name and I'm going to peel this off so that it's on my transfer tape. And I know that I have to line this up as 8 is the middle. So I'm just going to line this up like so. So I put the middle of this at about 8. And then I'm just going to press this. So remember, this is the Oracle 651 permanent vinyl. Just press firmly. Run your finger over it a few times. It should be adhered. You can pull it off slowly to make sure. So I think it looks pretty nice. You can feel the vinyl on it though. The HGV does work much better, but I want to show you the difference. You can actually feel the raised vinyl, but it does look nice. I don't know how well that would last over time with people holding this, but I will line the tad stick up. Just place this over it, give it a little squeegee to make sure it's on my tape. And you can see the name came up. So again, I know that 8 is the middle, so I just need to line this up at about the 8 and just press my finger over this a few times. Okay. Excellent. I've just turned my Cricut mini press on. Okay, so for this, you're also going to need a Teflon sheet. I'm going to line my stick up just like I did with the other one. Okay, so I know 8 is the exact center. I'm going to line my name up in the middle. Okay, the only thing is this, so you're gonna have to hold it because this transfer tape, this like transfer sheet with the HDV vinyl doesn't stick to the wood. So you will need to wrap your Teflon sheet around it, making sure to hold that paper in place. Okay, and you can just wrap it nice and tight and get a good grip on the bottom side. And I'm just going to press my easy press, just kind of lifting and moving it. I don't want to keep it in one spot for too long. And I don't want to just run it back and forth because that will cause the vinyl to kind of distort. So just being gentle with it. I'm gonna check if that was enough to remove our carrier sheet. So we'll just pull this slowly. And you can see that did come off perfect. So I always like to just press again after removing the carrier sheet. And it's very easy to burn yourself if you're holding it like this, so I do recommend holding it from the bottom like this, because then you won't get your fingers in the way of the mini press. Now I'm making sure to like turn the stick so I can make sure to get like all of the edges, like the bottom and the top, because the Smore stick is rounded. I want to make sure that I'm getting all of the edges nicely adhered. Okay, just remove the Teflon sheet. And there you have it. So I'll just do the other ones with the exact same method. I do want to show you the difference between the two. So the Claire was done in Oracle 651 permanent vinyl, and the Jack was done in Sizer HTV. They look fairly similar. The permanent vinyl has more of a glossy look to it, but like I said, I can feel it raised, which makes me believe it wouldn't hold up as well long term. The Jack one, I can't feel it raise. Like, it feels like it's part of the wood, and you can actually see grains of the wood in the letters. So I believe that the Sizer HTV is best to use for these. I don't have personal experience of how well it holds up long term. I have heard of people putting sealer on it. I personally wouldn't recommend that, just because people are going to be holding these in their sweaty hands and such. I think that it's best to leave them natural. And the Sizer HTV is kid safe. I think if I were doing a full set, I might consider doing the mom font a little bit smaller, just 'cause it looks a little bit large. And I think that it could be smaller if you wanted to. They all look really good on two of them. So like the Jack and the Jennifer look really good. But on the Brandon, you can see the font's a little bit wavy, and same thing with the mom. It's a little bit wavy. That has to do with the way I applied the vinyl with my Easy Press. If you're not gentle with it and you like push or swipe, etc., you're gonna get a little bit of wave in them. But you can see these ones are also done with HTV, and they are not wavy. They look great. So if it does come out wavy, you can remove it fairly easily with your weeding tool. I have already done it on one before, so I'll leave that up to you. Okay, so I'm just going to measure our bag, and the bag measures to the line here at the top 13 inches by 5.5. I am going to upload my design. Okay, we're going to choose here, and we're going to upload. We will select and add to canvas. Okay, so here's my design here. So our bag is 13 inches by 5.5 inches, and I don't want it going from tip to tip. So I think the maximum I would want it to go is maybe 10 inches. So I'll input that width and kind of see what the length is. So 10 inches, making sure this is locked so everything changes in proportion. But 10 inches is 25.4 centimeters. Okay. That would make our design almost 2 inches height, and I think that's a little bit too big. I think I want it to be 1.5 inches in height. So I'm actually going to go by height instead, and we'll do 3.81, which is, so 3.81 centimeters for height, which is 1.5 inches. And then this will change our width to about 19.5, which is about 7.67 inches. And I actually think that's a pretty good size, so I'm okay with that. If I were to print this right now, you can see here on the right, everything is going to print separately. I do want everything to print together, so I'm going to highlight all of this, and I am going to click weld. And you'll see how this changed on the right here. Now it's all going to print as one. So I am going to hit make it. We are doing HTV, so you will need to make sure to mirror your design. It's going to print it backwards, so that way when you transfer it on your product, it's going to be the correct way. So we'll hit continue. select the Cricut maker that I want. And we are going to be using iron on vinyl. I'm going to select that. The default is fine. So we can move over and make that. Okay, so I'm going to get my mat. I'm going to take my cover off. My mat is not super sticky, but it still works for me for now. So I'm going to take my HTV. See, there's a shiny side and a matte side. You're always going to place that shiny side that looks like it has plastic on top of it facing the mat, and the matte side facing you. So I'm going to place this on my mat. Get my brayer. So I didn't use this tool for the longest time. I mean, I had it, I just never used it. I didn't see need, and now I absolutely love it. Okay, so I'm going to place this in my machine, feed it in, move this out from the wall because our mat travels back, and if it's too close it will hit the wall, and we'll just put make. And I'll show you guys when it comes out. Okay, so I weeded out our design. I'm gonna place our design on our bag. I like to place the design kind of reading upwards towards the opening of the bag. And I don't want to place it directly in the middle because when the bag is closed, this area is not really legible if there's writing on it. So I don't actually want to place it directly in the middle. I want to place it just off center to the left. So in order to get the center of my bag, I'm just going to place my ruler this way. So we said it's 5.5 inches. So just as a placeholder, I'm just going to place my pen at about 2.75. So we'll do half. I'm just going to place it there to help me with placement. But I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put it at the bottom here. So our design is just under 8 inches, so about 8 inches. So if our bag is 13, I probably want to do about 2 inches in on the left, and then I'll have 3 inches on the right. So I can place this using my pen as like a middle guide. I'll place this about 2 inches in, so right about here I can just slide my pen out and I'll just press this down. That's kind of how I want it. I think that looks straight. I think that looks good. I might actually straighten it out a little bit more. And one way you can always check if it's straight is measuring from the top to the top of one of your letters of the same style. So that's how you can pretty much guarantee it straight. So that looks good. So we're just going to heat press that on. Now I'm not going to use my heat press for this because I know the material of this bag is just very sensitive. So I'm going to use my Teflon sheet over top, but I'm going to use the Cricut Easy Press, but on the lowest setting. I have it just at the 1 here. And I'm going to constantly move my mini press just so it doesn't heat up the bag in one spot for too long. So I'm just going to constantly be moving it, and because I am doing this on the lowest heat setting, Okay, I'm just gonna see what that's like. I basically just want to see that it's stuck enough. I want to remove the carrier sheet and then I'll go over it again. But I just want to see, I should have a heat pillow underneath this. So as long as it's not peeling up, which it doesn't look like it is, that's excellent. I always like to press again after removing that carrier sheet. Just to make sure it's nicely well adhered. And I didn't set a timer for this because, like I said, I'm constantly moving. I don't want to burn the bag by staying in one spot for too long. But I definitely recommend putting a heat pillow or something underneath, which I did not, and I should have. Okay. So I'll just remove this. You can see the fibers of the bag through the vinyl, so you know it's nicely adhered. I'll try to give you a close-up. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but you can see the tiny lines of the bag. If you can see it better here.